Hi guys, welcome back to Prospect Channel TV. Thank you for always stopping by. If you're just joining us for the first time, please kindly subscribe to this channel and don't forget to give us a thumbs up, abeg. Waiting you were about to watch could shock you. What is actually going on in Finland? The Finland government versus Simon Ekpa and Nigerian government. Okay guys, let's go there. I will be right back. Thank you.
In today's video, we shall be going through every single thing and details that played out in the courtroom today. Today being the trial of Mr. Simon has continued, and this time things are getting very, very interesting and very intense in the courtroom. Yes, today's court session kicked off around 12:30 p.m., which is kind of late compared to the other days. The whole court session kicked off in essence around 12:45 p.m. and the lawyer representing the government started with a long speech but ended with something nobody was expecting. Yes, he came forth to give a long speech. He was trying to summarize every single thing that happened yesterday, being the 27th of May of 2025. And after making that summary, he did something that threw Simon's lawyer off the balance. So the question here is, what did the lawyer from the government do or executed? Well, he asked the presiding judge if he could bring in some witnesses to testify against Simon. And the judge asked the lawyer, how many witnesses do you want to bring in? And the lawyer from the government said, I want to bring in 10 witnesses. And these guys are ready and seated waiting for your order. The judge was like, well, 10 witnesses are actually too much today because as you can see, we started very late, but I will allow for only three at most. Interestingly, the lawyer representing the government responded by saying, thank you, my lord. 3 witnesses is perfect and we shall roll with that. The lawyer interestingly called out his very first witness, and this witness was codenamed or is codenamed T1, which probably can be testifier 1. So he brought in a witness. The witness code name is T1, just for reference purposes. Yes, he called in this first witness, codenamed T1, and he said, on the 23rd of February of 2023, around 3:14 p.m., you were interviewed by a media outlet here in Finland named Yale. Is that correct? And the testifier 1 or T1 responded by saying, yes, that's correct. The lawyer from the government responded by saying, very good. He continued by saying, you live very close to Mr. Simon, which is the suspect sitting in the courtroom. In fact, you guys share the same garden. Is that correct? And T1 replied by saying, yes, that's correct. The lawyer responded by saying, good. In that interview you held with Yale media outlet, you made a series of claims. Well, before we continue with this video, let me show you something that will give you more context about the conversations that will be heard between T1 and the lawyer. Showing right now on your screen is a publication released 2 years ago coming from Yale. This is a particular interview that the lawyer from the government is about to reference in the courtroom because after going through the transcript, we had to do our own research and we found the interview. As you can see, it states, a neighbor saw the situation. Nigerian rebel Simon, who lives in Lati, was apprehended. According to HS, the man was released in the evening. So this is an article coming from Yale where they interviewed Simon's neighbor, yes, his immediate neighbor, the same neighbor who appeared before the courtroom today, titled or codenamed T1. Showing right now on your screen is a statement made by this T1 during the interview he had or she had with Yale around 2003. In this interview, he or she claimed that Simon is a close neighbor and over the past couple of months or years living with him or sharing the same neighborhood with him, he noticed that this guy has a lot of strange behaviors. That is Simon. He noticed or she noticed that Simon has a lot of guests, particularly in the evening. They drove in cars, they come around to make noise, hold meetings, chant, and sometimes these visitors of Simon are actually very, very loud. He also continued by saying that one particular day, he or she heard a very loud sound or noise coming from Simon's apartment. And suddenly, individuals who happens to be visitors or guests of Simon came to this neighbor's door, banged on the door and threatened this particular individual. Well, take a look at this article showing right now on your screen and pay attention to the highlighted part where you can see the testimony or the words of this particular T1 when he or she was first interviewed in 2003. So this is the particular context. This is the article that the lawyer representing the government of Finland is trying to reference in the court of law. Hope all of you are understanding what is currently going on here, and hope this is very, very clear. So let's go back to the courtroom and continue after making clarifications on the context of the interview. So the lawyer asked T1, that is back to the courtroom, the lawyer asked T1 to describe life living or sharing the same neighborhood with Simon. And T1 responded by saying that living in the same neighborhood with Simon is usually scary. Every day, Nigerians and other Africans gather at his house to hold events. Sometimes it's noisy, sometimes it's calm. Once there's a bit of a bigger disturbance and then a man came to my door. However, we avoided a major conflict. So the lawyer representing the government said, so are you saying that this man is a violent person? That is, are you saying the individual, the guest of Simon who came to your door to bang your door is a violent person? And T1 responded by saying yes. He or she also went a step further to claim that after that incident, he or she has been or living in fear every single day and time. The lawyer from the government apologized to her and asked her a very, very tricky question that threw Simon and his lawyer off guard. The lawyer asked, can this man lead a terror group? That is, can Simon lead a terror group? And T1 responded by saying, well, it's very, very likely. And for the very first time, Simon's lawyer had to object, but his objection was turned down by the presiding judge. The lawyer representing the government asked T1, is there any other thing you would want to ask before we end your session? T1 responded or replied by saying, yes, this man speaks Finns very well. Sometimes I hear him converse in Finns, English, and a Nigerian language with his guests. He uses a particular word to describe danger or to inflict harm. This is a statement or a comment coming from T1 in regards to Mr. Simon. What is that word? Asked the lawyer, and T1 replied by saying, Woto Woto Pro Max. So the moment you saw this on the transcript, we actually laughed because how can Woto Woto Pro Max be discussed in a court session? Well, let's continue with the whole conversation so we can see where this is headed. The lawyer continued by saying Simon and his terror group often use Woto Woto as a term or code name to harm someone. The lawyer showed some documents, tweets, and videos where Simon used Woto Woto. He also presented a post from or a tweet from Simon released on the 1st of January of 2023, where Simon used that word clearly. Showing right now on your screen is this tweet presented, which happens to be very, very funny. As you can see, if you check out the highlighted part of this publication, you will see Woto Woto Pro Max with speed. What is the context? Well, let's read the article. This year, 2023, is the USB liberation and exit year from Nigeria. There is no amount of carnage by the Nigerian terrorist state that will stop the USB from exiting Nigeria this year. Save those dates and wait for further instructions. Welcome to 2023 Woto Woto Pro Max with speed. The lawyer representing the government also gave more context of what that word or the phrase Woto Woto probably means in Nigeria. This man presented an article or a conversation from a Nigerian forum known as Nairaland, where Nigerians had conversations and discussed the meaning of Woto Woto Pro Max. If you check out the title of this conversation is, what is the meaning of Woto Woto? And this was discussed around the 20th of May of 2022. I want you to read through the comments and the reactions from Nigerians. The lawyer believed that Woto Woto simply means to deal with somebody, to beat somebody, to unalive somebody, or to probably destroy somebody or do something to somebody with full force. So he's trying to convince the judge that Woto Woto is a word synonymous to danger. This is where things got really, really interesting in the courtroom. The lawyer representing the government told the judge that he is done with the cross-examination of T1, and with his permission, T1 can return back to the crowd and have he or her seat. And this is when the lawyer representing Simon asked for permission to cross-examine T1, and the judge granted his permission. Simon's lawyer asked T1, do you have any relationship with my client? Answer yes or no. T1 said no. Do your family have any relationship with my client? T1 replied by saying no. Do you know my client? T1 responded by saying yes. Have you seen him with arms before? No, replied T1. Have you seen him carry out any harm on somebody? T1 responded by saying no, but we've seen series of, and that is when Simon's lawyer cut her off or cut him off and saying, No, there's no buts in your responses. I don't want you to reply with buts or ifs or whatsoever. Your responses should be yes or no. It's actually very, very clear. Answer with yes or no. Please don't waste our time. And that is when T1 responded by saying no. The lawyer from Simon's legal counsel team continued by saying, you said you heard him from a distance issuing command. Do you have any video recordings or audio whatsoever to back your claims and to fact check your claims? T1 said, yes, I have a recording. And Simon's lawyer asked this T1, is it a video or an audio recording? And T1 responded by saying, it's an audio recording. Simon's lawyer had to pause for about 3 to 5 seconds to rethink and to recalculate. He said, if we play your recordings in court, can you prove that it's not AI generated? T1 said, it's not AI generated. Simon's lawyer was like, please answer my questions with yes or no and nothing more. I will ask again, if we play your recordings in court, can you prove it's not AI generated? T1 said, it's not AI generated. We can send it to forensics, which has been done already. Please answer my questions the way I asked them. Answer with only yes or no, and that is it. Don't tell me any other thing. If we play your recordings in court, can you prove it's not AI generated? T1 said, no, I cannot prove. Please answer with yes or no. If we play your recordings in court, can you prove it's not AI generated? T1 said, no. The lawyer replied by saying, so you cannot prove your own recordings. This simply means you are wasting our time. Simon's lawyer said something nobody was expecting. Back in 2021, you, T1, testified against an individual who was later seen as not guilty. Yes, just in case you don't understand, let me break this conversation for you to fully understand what is currently going on here. Back in 2021, this same witness called upon to testify against Simon was also called upon in a courtroom to testify against an individual brought before a court in that country. And after investigations and after research and after trials, the court or the judge, the presiding judge at that particular time, acquitted the victim and released that victim, which means that T1, the testifier, probably did not have enough claims to testify in the courtroom. So the lawyer of Simon used that as a reference today, this afternoon. He was like, back in 2021, you, TY, testified against an individual who was later seen as not guilty. True or false? T1 said, true. The audience in court was in disbelief, and the lawyer said, I'm done with my cross-examination. T1 can leave and go back to their seats. And this was a very, very clean rendition from the lawyer representing Simon in the courtroom. Yes, at this point, the presiding judge asked the two legal counsel team, that is the lawyer from the government and the lawyer from Simon, to permit them go for a short break so as to reassess and continue later on. So the court session went for a short break and came back. When they came back, they had a series of conversations, they had a series of debates, and to summarize, the whole court hearings on that particular day. Well, the presiding judge ended the court session and stated that tomorrow the whole court hearings would continue. Yes. And we believe that tomorrow's court hearing will be very, very interesting. So if you are here to subscribe to this channel, please do well to subscribe and turn on post notifications, because the lawyer from the government of Finland claims that his testifier too will be, or definitely is going to be, a close family member of Simon. So the question here is, who is this testifier to? And who is this close family member of Simon that wants to testify against him in the courtroom? Well, this is going to be very, very massive tomorrow.
All right, guys, thank you very much for staying to the end of this video. Who else do you think that will testify against Simon Ekpa? Nigerians, or can I say Biafrans, are saying the same person who wrote petition against him, Bianca Ojukwu. Bianca Ojukwu, not try. Anyway, let's see how this will, turn up from now till tomorrow. At the drop and for you, my people, kindly drop your comments below the comment section. Share this video, make it go viral so that Biafrans could understand what is still they happen, with Simon Ekpa in Finland. Bye for now.